History is often told in broad strokes, big battles, famous names, and the sweeping movements that shaped the world. We remember the victors and the vanquished, the treaties signed, and the flags raised in triumph. But beneath the headlines and beyond the public eye, other wars unfold in the shadows. Wars fought in secrecy where the stakes are just as high, but the stories are rarely told. These hidden conflicts shape nations in silence, leaving scars that last for generations. The pain and trauma ripple through families and communities long after the last shot is fired. America's involvement in Southeast Asia is one such story, far more complex and far-reaching than most realize, stretching across borders and deep into the heart of the region. While the world watched Vietnam, another war raged next door, hidden from the public and even much of Congress. Few outside the region understood its true scale or cost. This was not a war of soldiers in uniform, but of covert operatives. The CIA's secret war in Laos, waged in the shadows with local allies and hidden agendas. Officially, Laos was neutral, protected by the Geneva Accords and international agreements that promised peace. In reality, it became a secret battlefield, where bombs fell in silence and alliances shifted in the misty mountains. The world looked away as Laos was torn apart by forces beyond its control, its people caught between superpowers and ideologies. While Saigon and Hanoi drew the headlines, the mountains of Laos became the stage for one of the largest and most secretive covert operations in American history. It was a war of shadows, fought by proxy, where the lines between ally and enemy blurred, and the rules of engagement were rewritten in the darkness. This is the story of that hidden war, and the people caught in its devastating crossfire, whose courage and suffering have too often been forgotten by history. To understand the secret war, you must first understand Laos, a landlocked kingdom of stunning beauty and deep traditions. Its people were a mosaic of ethnic groups, navigating survival between powerful neighbors. The 1962 Geneva Accords promised neutrality, with all foreign troops to withdraw and a coalition government to rule, but geography made neutrality impossible. Laos shared a long, porous border with Vietnam. For North Vietnam, this border was an opportunity, a backdoor to South Vietnam. The heavily fortified DMZ was too dangerous, so Hanoi built the Ho Chi Minh Trail through Laos. This network of jungle paths became the lifeline of the North Vietnamese war effort. For the U.S., the trail was a threat that could not be ignored. The promise of neutrality quickly collided with military reality. Against its will, Laos became a central front in the Cold War. The stage was set for a secret conflict that would change the country forever. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was the heart of the North Vietnamese war machine, an evolving network of roads, hidden depots, and jungle paths. At its peak, it moved thousands of tons of supplies and soldiers each month. For American planners, the trail was a strategic nightmare, fueling the enemy's war in the south. Attacking it was essential, but Laos's neutrality made open military action impossible. A conventional invasion risked a wider war and political disaster. The solution: covert action. The CIA was tasked with disrupting the trail, without leaving American fingerprints. This marked a turning point. Laos became a secret battlefield, the war waged by proxy. The U.S. would use air power, technology, and a clandestine local army. The goal: turned the trail into a river of fire for the North Vietnamese. The method: secrecy, creativity, and a willingness to operate in the shadows. The CIA needed local fighters to wage its secret war. They found their partners in the Hmong, a fiercely independent ethnic group living in Laos's mountains. The Hmong had long resisted outside control and were skilled guerrilla fighters. For the CIA, they were the perfect proxy force. For the Hmong, the alliance offered a chance at survival. At the center was General Vang Pao, a charismatic leader who united the Hmong and led the Armée clandestine. With CIA support, Vang Pao built a formidable secret army, over 30,000 strong at its peak. The agency ran its own airline, Air America, flying supplies, weapons, and personnel into remote mountain airstrips. Air America became the lifeline of the secret war, sustaining the Hmong resistance. The operation was massive, clandestine, and hidden in plain sight. For over a decade, this shadow army fought a war few outsiders even knew existed. building the Hmong resistance began quietly: small teams, simple weapons, and a network of village militias. In the remote highlands of Laos, these groups formed the backbone of a movement that would soon become vital to the secret war effort. Their determination and resourcefulness allowed them to survive in harsh conditions, relying on deep knowledge of the land and strong community ties. The goal was clear: create eyes and ears in the mountains to monitor the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the lifeline of North Vietnamese supply lines. Hmong scouts watched jungle trails, relaying crucial information about enemy movements to their allies. As the conflict escalated, so did the CIA's efforts, organizing militias into mobile fighting units, training young Hmong in guerrilla tactics. These recruits learned to strike quickly and disappear into the jungle, using their environment as both shield and weapon. Long Tieng, a secret mountain base, became the nerve center of the war. A bustling city hidden from the world. From here, operations were planned, supplies were distributed, and the Hmong resistance coordinated its daring missions. Vang Pao was more than a commander. He became a father figure, using CIA resources to support and unify his people. His leadership inspired loyalty and hope, even as the dangers grew. The relationship was symbiotic. The CIA provided weapons, money, and training. The Hmong provided manpower, courage, and an unbreakable will to defend their homeland. Together they waged daring raids, ambushed enemy patrols, and guided American bombers to hidden targets. Their actions disrupted enemy supply lines and forced the North Vietnamese to divert resources. Hmong units tied down tens of thousands of North Vietnamese troops who might have fought in South Vietnam. Their resistance was a crucial, if often overlooked, part of the larger conflict. For years, this small, secret army changed the course of the wider war, shaping events far beyond their mountain homeland. But the cost would be devastating. Villages were destroyed, families torn apart, and the scars of war would linger for generations. As the Vietnam War intensified, so did the secret war in Laos. With U.S. ground troops forbidden, the conflict became an air war of staggering scale. From 1964 to 1973, the U.S. dropped over 2 million tons of bombs on Laos, more than on Germany and Japan in World War II. Entire villages were obliterated. Hundreds of thousands fled to survive. On the ground, the fighting followed a brutal seasonal rhythm: offensives in the dry season, counterattacks in the monsoon. The Hmong, guided by CIA advisors and backed by air power, fought to reclaim lost ground year after year. All of this happened in near total secrecy, hidden from the American public. Officials denied involvement, calling the bombing armed reconnaissance. The war was fought without a name, changing a country forever. For most of the world, it simply did not exist. The proxy war's fatal flaw was clear. America had bombs and money, but the Hmong had only their people. As casualties mounted, younger and younger boys filled the ranks, some just 13. The Hmong paid a terrible price: villages destroyed, families shattered, an entire generation lost. They became refugees in their own land, dependent on American aid to survive. For the CIA officers, the war became personal. They saw the courage and suffering firsthand and feared what would happen if America left. The Hmong fought for survival. America fought for strategy. For the Hmong, the stakes were absolute. For the U.S., Laos was a means to an end. This difference would have devastating consequences. The Hmong bet everything. America could, and eventually did, walk away. The cost of secrecy was measured in lives and betrayal. For Washington, Laos was always a sideshow, just a tool to impact the war in Vietnam. The Hmong were valued for tying down enemy troops, the bombing for disrupting supply lines. The fate of Laos and its people was secondary. For the Hmong, this was their only war. Their villages, their families, their future. As America sought an exit from Vietnam, support for the secret war evaporated. The 1973 Paris Peace Accords ended U.S. bombing and CIA support. The Hmong, now dependent on American aid, were left to face their enemies alone. The collapse came swiftly. In 1975, the Pathet Lao took control, vowing revenge on the CIA's allies. Vang Pao and a few thousand escaped, but tens of thousands were left behind to face brutal retaliation. For the Hmong, it was the beginning of a new nightmare. The end of the Secret War marked the start of a desperate exodus for the Hmong, fleeing through jungles, crossing the Mekong, seeking refuge in Thailand. Entire families risked everything, leaving behind homes, memories, and the only life they had ever known. The journey was perilous, filled with fear and uncertainty, as they navigated treacherous terrain and evaded hostile patrols under the cover of darkness. Many died along the way. Those who survived faced years in overcrowded camps before resettlement abroad. Life in these camps was harsh, marked by uncertainty, loss, and the daily struggle to maintain hope for a better future. The Hmong diaspora is a living legacy of America's secret war. Communities scattered across continents, forever severed from their homeland, yet they have worked to preserve their culture, language, and identity, building new lives while carrying the weight of their history. Another legacy lies buried in Laos. Millions of unexploded bombs, a deadly threat to farmers and children decades later. These silent killers remain hidden in the soil, making everyday activities like farming or playing a constant risk. Every year Laotians are killed or maimed by these remnants of a war that never happened. The scars of conflict are etched into the land and the lives of those who remain. The secret war is over, but its dangers remain, shaping daily life and the future of generations yet to come. This story is a lesson in the hidden costs of proxy warfare, where local allies are treated as expendable assets, and the consequences linger long after the fighting stops. The alliance with the Hmong was a tactical success, but a strategic and moral failure. Promises made in secret were often broken in silence, leaving deep wounds that have yet to heal. The quiet mountains of Laos bear witness to a war meant to be forgotten. A reminder that what happens in secret matters, and its echoes can last for generations. The past is never truly past. Its shadows linger, shaping lives and landscapes, reminding us that history's hidden chapters demand to be remembered.